Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. These huge storms just keep getting bigger. In fact, we had up to 7 inches of rainfall near the Santa Barbara area yesterday and evacuations down there in the Modesto region. And we had up some 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts in the overnight hours with this latest atmospheric river that just keeps pounding the coastline. And yet we have another formidable system back behind that one. In fact, we had several tornado warnings. When's the last time you've actually seen that? Back-to-back tornado warnings into the overnight hours in California, guys. These storms are definitely serious and they're packing a punch. But the midsection of the country, it's all about the heat. As the southwest winds really crank in, we could be looking at numerous 80-degree temperatures in Texas. Some of these could break records. And unfortunately, that's going to heat up the atmosphere and spell trouble as far as severe storms as we head into Wednesday timeframe in Far East Texas, back into the Arklatex, have to be on high alert for severe weather Wednesday night into the overnight timeframe, and those just extend further off into the east on Thursday, being more intensified down there into the deep south, portions of the southeast, into the Birmingham area, back into Atlanta, back into Chattanooga, all the way up into Kentucky, are looking at all 3 modes of severe storms are definitely on the table. So in fact, if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel. It's also important to hit the like button as well. It definitely helps out more than you know. So let's really delve into the details and take a look at the setup for today, because it continues to rain along the west coast into California, especially down there in Southern California with very heavy rainfall. But yes, it's all about the heat in the midsection of the country with that warm front lifting with those southwest winds, and that pulls in those warmer winds and really cranks up the atmosphere. And then going into tomorrow, that warm front continues to lift up through the day. So we're seeing a series of warmer temperatures, 25 to 35 degrees above average temperatures, believe it or not, for January standards. But out west, again, it does settle down into portions of Southern California, but yet we have another round coming in for Northern California and portions along the west coast and to Washington and Oregon. We do actually have some snow in the higher elevations into portions of Wyoming and getting into the western slopes of Colorado. But as we go into that Wednesday night, overnight Thursday morning time frame, that's when the severe storms could break out in Far East Texas, back into the Arklatex here. It does have a little bit of a cold front trailing behind it. It actually only drops the temperatures back to just seasonal averages for this time of year, just because you've been so warm out ahead of it. But yes, we have more rain going to be pounding the coastline up there into the Pacific Northwest, especially back into portions of San Francisco area, San Jose area. But going into Thursday, that's what we have to be concerned about. Those severe storms are going to be highlighted and breaking out, and a lot of the same areas that got hit hard just last week going to be hit hard again. I don't think they're going to be as nearly as intense as you saw last week, but we could be looking at some more tornadoes in this region down here in portions of Louisiana, getting into Mississippi, into Alabama, back into Georgia again. And that could extend as far north as Tennessee, but it should transfer to just more or less gusty winds back as you extend into Kentucky. But again, there's not much snow with this, but there's going to be a little bit of a snow on the backside, but there's just not much cold air going to be trailing on the backside. So you could be seeing some snowflakes fall out of the sky, but we're not talking about some significant accumulations really at all. But yes, the main concern is going to be those severe storms. Here's the latest NAM. It only goes out 60 hours, so it only picks up through noon on Thursday. But I think these are going to be a little bit more elevated as you extend into the Birmingham area, getting into Georgia. So this is kind of the main target area of those severe storms, and definitely be on high alert, especially as you get into deeper into the afternoon, into the early evening time frame for some of those tornadoes. Some larger hail could be associated with it, but especially those damaging winds of 60 plus miles an hour in this region. But look at some of these lake levels because they come up really significant down there in California. They've been in an extended drought for many, many, many years. So it is a good thing that they're getting a lot of rain, but it's a bad thing it's coming in all at once. And it's been, impacting this area really since, Christmas Eve timeframe. Between now and then, they've, Lake Oroville has gone up from 25% to 46% capacity, but we're not even halfway, guys. We're not even near historical average. That shows you the significant drought they've been into that region. And I'm expecting several more rounds of these atmospheric river events, and some of these could be just as strong as what you've been seeing as of late. And I'll show you that here in a little bit. But yeah, it's all about the warmer temperatures. But behind the once we get into Friday, we are going to be seeing a little bit of a cool down. So you have that heat build up for Tuesday and Wednesday, and then you have that cold front trailing on the backside. But again, it only drops you to basically seasonal averages. I mean, you can see the high temperature on Friday is basically 60 degrees in Dallas Fort Worth. That's basically just about normal, what you typically see this time of year. You do have a little bit of a colder air, but this is not Arctic any stretch of the imagination. So you are going to be seeing a little bit of a cool down on the backside of this cold front. But yes, it's all about the significant rain that's going to be impacting, especially along the coastal regions ahead of this cold front, back into Florida, across Savannah, getting into North Carolina, up along the coast, especially into the I-95 corridor, New York City, Boston, Massachusetts, all those areas with rain. I know it's not what you want to hear this time of year, but you're going to get from fairly significant rain because all the colder air is pulled well up into Canada. You are going to get, again, a little bit of snow on the backside, but it's not much. But you can see the freezing line. So you do get a little bit of a cold air, and you got a lot of clearing in the middle of the country. So there's really not much happening in the middle of the country. You're kind of high and dry, really in between systems. It really doesn't pick up again until it picks up that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. But yeah, let's talk about these atmospheric river event. A lot of you guys probably don't even know. They started naming these and kind of putting categories on this just to kind of give you a pre-advanced warning on potential severity of what could unfold with these events, kind of like they do with hurricanes, right? So you can actually see an atmospheric river event of a category 3 is basically considered strong. And just to kind of give you some semblance of how that occurred, back in the 2016 event that lasted about 36 hours, it dumped about 5 to 10 inches of rain and caused some river flooding and flood stages to go over its banks. But an atmospheric river 4 event is more of an extreme event, lasted 36 hours, but actually had about 14 inches of rain, of precipitation into the Sierra Nevada. And that was back in 2017. So going forward, let's look at these atmospheric river events, because obviously you got the one right now. But I think you have a more significant system that comes in on Saturday with this low pressure dropping to a 983. And if we had to put a category on it, it looks like about an AR3 with this particular event. And you can actually see what that caused is some of these rivers could go over its banks and caused it to be into flood stage. So this is going to be another significant event. And then back behind that one, I think even a formidable storm, and this is more of an AR4, even a bigger threat, will come in on Monday. So these last about 36 hours. So this is going to come in on Saturday, extend into Sunday afternoon, but then yet you have another one that comes in on a Monday that also goes into 36 hours. So you're not going to have much of a break once you go into Saturday and extend into that Monday system. So from Saturday to Tuesday, this area is going to be, inundated with very heavy rainfall, compounding on what's already occurred. So we're talking some serious problems in a good part of California. And so we'll highlight this. Let's look at this details here, because this is the latest round. This will be your Saturday event, down to a 979 millibar low pressure. Very heavy rain pounds it close with a lot of high winds. the soil is completely saturated, right? I mean, these areas unfortunately have already had 12 fatalities with these storms already. And you got all these storms are still going to be impacting these areas, are going to cause a lot greater problems because the soil is completely saturated. There's nowhere to go. So it's going to be a little bit easier to flood in these regions. And once these winds hit those trees, it's going to cause even more down trees and more power outages in these areas. So definitely be on high alert into these areas, especially as you go into Saturday. But for the rest of the country, you can see that system pulls off the coast, but you're pretty high and dry. I mean, more or less, California takes really a lot of the precipitation out of the atmosphere and just dumps it on the state. And then there's been a lot of winds associated with these as well. So again, with that newest threat that comes in on Saturday, we could be looking at more 70-mile-per-hour wind gust to crank into this region as these storms come to shore. So you got high winds and then all the heavier rain that's going to be associated with it. And these are just kind of a longer duration events. But yes, going into Sunday, we are going to be seeing a little bit of a cool down because you get the northwest flow back behind this system. So yes, areas and portions of the southeast, once you kind of clear out, there's no precipitation with this, but you are going to be seeing, clearer skies, light winds, and could drop you down to freezing all the way down into portions of maybe the panhandle of Florida as you're experiencing those colder conditions. But it doesn't really last long, because once this moves through, the southwest winds crank up and it heats up as well. So even going into next week, we got more rounds of rain coming in for the West Coast, just the middle of the country, like what you've seen again with the southwest winds coming on the backside. You really crank up those temperatures again, waiting for this next storm system. But yes, there's the setup on Monday. So as you get into Monday, I think it's mainly going to be a Southern California event. It's still going to hit the northern regions, but especially kind of like what you saw just yesterday, where Santa Barbara picked up 7 inches alone just in one day from this event, guys. This is another concerning system, especially for Southern California, and this could last for 36 hours. Right? So we're talking a lot of copious amounts of rain are going to be impacting these same areas, and you could be just crushed with more heavy rain in this area. But as you get to the midsection of the country, it's like deja vu again, right? You go back and you crank up the temperatures, you got that trough coming in, and boom, same areas, Far East Texas, Arklatex, Mississippi, Western Tennessee, the same areas you've seen it, and then that just extends into Tuesday. So we're just seeing a repeated setup. Actually, 3 weeks in a row, we've seen this setup where it misses the midsection of the country. Then going to the next week, we could be looking at more severe weather where they're going to get it Wednesday and Thursday. We could have another system come in Monday and Tuesday, hit the same exact areas they're going to be impacting this week. But the difference is there's light at the end of the tunnel. If there's any good things about this weather report, is I think things start to calm down, and they're going to need it in a big way in a good part of California, because once that system moves through, probably later on Tuesday timeframe, things begin to just clear out. So, but the significance is, and I think the pattern change will start to unfold. So we'll start to have those severe storms that are elongated into Tuesday, but the difference is this trough actually makes it to Phoenix. These areas into Phoenix get some rain, and then places in New Mexico finally get some rain, right? But and the significance on the backside of that is once you get into next Thursday, I think things begin to really, really settle down and start to dry out, because these troughs will continue to shift in the middle section of the country. And you may actually finally get some rain in Oklahoma and portions of North Texas by then, where it's been just high and dry for like a month. The difference is these ridges start to creep up a little bit further north. These positives lift a little bit further north. It allows this trough to sneak in underneath, but it also allows this ridge to build in from the west. So that's going to be significant, and that's going to be the significant feature that will start to dry you out in California. But what? We have a lot of very heavy rain and serious threats, at least for the next 7 days in California, which I'm very concerned about. But there's not much cold air to speak of, and there's not going to be much snow to speak of as well, as everything's lifted well north up into Canada, and then well north up here to the White Mountains. Maine probably get some heavier snows, but especially along the coastal regions, it's all rain. But the Intermountain West just cranks with very heavy snow, and the Sierra Nevada just gets some crazy intense snows. I mean, look at that, 150 inches just in the next 7 days, guys, compounding of what they've seen. I mean, you're seeing, you know, snows you haven't seen in many, many, many years in these regions, and this is all going to melt. These are all going to be a good things for these lake levels, you know, later on down the road once all this snow melts. But I'm very concerned about all the heavy rain that's going to unfold. Again, the middle of the country for the next 7 to 8 days at least, you're in a dry slot. You're not going to get much of anything, but it's going to pick up once you get into the eastern sides, the southeastern sides, and once you get into the Ohio Valley, and especially along the coastal regions, fairly significant rains along the I-95 corridor. But out west, man, it's just all about these series of atmospheric river events that pummel the state, and very heavy rain. We could be looking at more double-digit totals, unfortunately, start to add up in these regions over the next 7 to 10 days. And if we kind of zoom in to Southern California on compounding of all the rain they've received already, this is what they could get on top of what they've seen. Another 9 inches potentially in around the Los Angeles area, the Santa Barbara area that just got pummeled yesterday. So this is a very concerned system, as you got one after another compounding for the next 7 to 10 days. I'm looking at a lot more flooding in these regions for the days to come. So, hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I updated those platforms as well. And catch the next update where I protect you before and after storm.